no time to truly scrutinise any European Union against their will. Now, an extension will kick that question back down the road for a very long time, because it's not just an extension. Word has it in a bar in Brussels that they are going to ask for a long extension. Is it not just proper and correct to remove ourselves from this fiasco and just go? We have a mandate, we have a triple lock mandate. Why don't we just hold a referendum? Because this is going from bad to worse. And punch and judy show it is not. It would be funny if it wasn't so serious.
Definitely.
So that's my take on it. And if I caused a little stir by suggesting that the Yes group or the Yes movement consider creating a single issue party. Take the politics out here and deliver independence for the Scottish people. So that may bring a bit of conversation tonight. I'd love to hear your views on what's taking place.
Colin.
Colin or Colin?
Colin.
Colin, me?
Yeah.
Well, I think my views on the fiasco that was seen at Westminster are by now very well known. I agree with you wholeheartedly. We're seeing Theresa May kicking the can down the road. You just look back. I mean, originally we were told we would have the deal by the end of October. We got the deal by December. And then she started getting a wee bit worried that she might lose the vote, so she postponed the vote on the deal till the middle of January. The middle of January she got panned. She came back within a week, against her will, because it was Parliament that said, right, we need to go a wee bit further on this, and says, okay, I'll go back to Europe. I'll get some concessions from the EU. She went back to Europe, came back for Europe, and says, I got nothing, like. It's amazing. The meaningful vote, if we believe her speech yesterday, will now be the end of February, about a month before the UK and Scotland are going to be leaving the EU. And at the same time, we've got the SNP saying, well, we have to wait until we know what the position is on Brexit before we make further comment onto how we are going to use the mandate. Now, I think the SNP also know that they have the mandate. I can understand that they're waiting for some kind of clarity on how Brexit is going to pan out before they make a decision on how the mandate should be used. But folk, we are running out of time. And we are rapidly getting to the stage where there's, if you look at social media, you've got the independence folk that are saying, all right, we'll just call Connie a wee bit. You've got the independence folk that are saying, we have to use the mandate now. And we're still going back to the situation we had in 2014, where just 9 months before the referendum in 2014, we were about 20% in favour of yes. And I firmly believe, seeing the way the yes movement has reorganised itself, getting its heads together, I think it is time that we just need a call for the mandate to be used. An interesting point that has been made also several times in social media. We don't actually have a mandate, if you go out on party manifestos, for a people's vote. A people's vote to kick the can down the line and have another EU referendum. We do have a mandate for a Scottish independence referendum. We have about 5%, if you believe the opinion polls, we have to convince. Now, it would be nice if we can get up to 70 or 50% in favour of yes. It would make life a lot easier. But I'm getting more and more to the stage where I'm saying we are running out of time just because Theresa May is kicking the can down the line. We in Scotland, we shouldn't be dependent on that.
No.
We shouldn't be saying we wait for Theresa May to get to some kind of deal or no deal. I mean, it makes Noel Edmonds look like the Prime Minister. Noel Edmonds, Mr. fucking Blobby.
I was thinking you were saying it, mate.
Folk in Scotland are running out of time. We have to get our independence sooner rather than later. And the longer we wait for the UK government to come to some kind of clarity, the longer people in Scotland are going to be suffering under this disunited union.
Pat.
Absolutely. Can I come in here, Raymond?
Yeah, go ahead.
Raymond, I'm on the Indie Chat Live, just going to Independence Live are simulcasting this broadcast around the country for us as well. A wee shout out to Maggie Brennan, John Paul Warlow, Sandra Dean. We shouldn't be trying independence or tying independence to the EU. Independence should be about independence. Hello, Gordon Ross IndyCar is watching.
Hi, Gordon.
And Robert Sullivan. Welcome aboard, guys. If you have any questions, if you have anything you would like to participate in the show tonight,
let me just say hi to.
We'll do our best.
Pat, before you continue, let me say hi to all the people on Facebook as well. We got Tina Juneman, Brian Forgy, Stephen McGinty, Patrick Ploegmakers, that's a guy that I know here in the Netherlands, Johnny Rudkin, Naya O'Flaherty, Danny McGrant, Ian Leckenby, our own Ian Leckenby, and Jim Keatings. Guys, for you too, if you have any questions or any topics that you want to discuss, please let us know, and we'll try to do our best to answer your questions. Pat.
To take it back on to the opening topic about tying ourselves to the EU, where in this scenario are the Scottish people being enabled to decide when they're going to hold a referendum? Because that's been the mantra all along since 2014. Should any change come, it will be the people of Scotland that will decide. But we know that each and every facet of leaving Europe will be detrimental to the British economy and the Scottish economy, up to the value in Scotland alone of £14 billion. This is not what we put politicians into power for. They are there to protect our interests. And if we wait and continue to wait, then our protection dwindles. The EU have not moved an inch on the negotiations. The negotiation has been signed off by Theresa May. And now she wants to go back and demand that they reopen negotiations. They have made it abundantly clear that will not happen. So I'm calling on Nicola to set the date It does, the date of the referendum doesn't have to be before Brexit, but the mechanism has to be put in place to hold that referendum before the 29th of March. So the date can be set, and we can then focus on winning our freedom. Amen. Because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Callum?
In many ways, I feel the Brexit shenanigans that's unfolding has took precedent over independence. Not just for the SNP, but certain people that I've talked to within the movement are more concerned about Brexit than independence, and I don't like the two to be put together because they're two separate entities on their own. And that's the first and foremost thing that I've tried to say to people on my opinion, because this is the thing. We're all giving their own opinions on the way we see things, you know, but I don't like when I'm on social media or if I'm socialising and we get into pernickety fights because people claim to be more wise about stuff than the next guy. I mean, we're all best guesses, and that's simply what it is. But I think there has to be an element of realism here from the SNP. We've said for months, you know, they're going down, they're trying to play them at their game, they're trying to go down there and be representatives fairly, but ultimately, as time has shown us, they don't play by anybody's rules apart from their own. They're not interested in playing, they're not interested in sharing, and I think it was naive of the SNP to simply go down there and even try that. As time's going on, the only people that are going to be suffering in this is the people of Scotland that put the SNP politicians down there to represent them, because as time's going on, the homelessness situation's going up, the food bag usage is going up, the people are under more stress and under more attacks from the Tory government, and ultimately there needs to be action now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We've got Robert Sullivan on here. Any thoughts on the idea of using the general election or Scottish elections, which the SNP could do? They could call an election at the Scottish Parliament before the 29th of March. They could disband the Parliament and call fresh Scottish elections and base it on using the mandate. Take, as we said before, take them to the battlefield. Some questions on safety and the integrity of the vote. He believes it's still too early for a referendum before May 2021. Sorry, that's Sandra Dean. Sandra, I've got to totally disagree with you there. There are people suffering right now. There are deaths occurring in this country. And if this was a drug cartel, they would be shouting from the rooftops about dealing with it. We have people dying now. We cannot wait any longer. It needs to happen, and we need to extricate ourselves from this corrupt and absolutely unequal union. We can never be equal when an opposing country can dictate what laws are passed and what are not. Colin McPherson.
I think the whole point is, I mean, we're not seeing much movement in the opinion polls at the minute, but we have been consistently around about 45%, getting up to 48, 49% over the last few years. And if you look back to 2014, what we saw was people in Scotland getting out on the road, shutting doors, talking to folk. And what we've been seeing going on over the last 4.5 years, I mean, some of us might be geeks like me that are sitting down watching Westminster Live, seeing the Scottish MPs being treated with contempt by the Tory government. Other folk are out in the streets, like Callum, who's again sees where he stays in Glasgow. Food bank queues going up, people dying, homelessness going up. What we need is a concerted campaign, and we're only going to get this concerted campaign when the date is named.
Yes.
Yeah.
When the date is named, and we are told maybe July, September, whatever this year, then the Yes movement has a focus again, where the Yes movement, which has already been getting its act back together again over the last couple of years, will really get out there, really get out speaking to folk, persuading these soft no voters, maybe slightly harder no voters, and showing folk what is going on. Because one thing is for sure, these no voters that are still, after 2014, not in favour of independence, they're getting their news for the BBC, they're getting their news for the Herald and for the Scotsman. They're seeing the headlines, they're not seeing what's really happening. And that is why we have to get the show back on the road. We have to name the date. We then, it's down to us, and we know what we can do.
Definitely. Definitely.
I've said quite a bit of times that I'm still firmly behind Nicola. I stand by that. But, like you guys said, we're running out of time. They say, SNP says, we are waiting on clarity from Tories about Brexit. And I'm thinking clarity from the Tories in general. Do you really think that's going to happen? Never, in my book. Tories and clarity don't go hand in hand, in my book. We're simply out of time. And Theresa May even. Plan B is to negotiate again with Europe. After they've already said, we don't want any more negotiations. Plan C, new negotiations with Europe. They are not going to negotiate, you beep.
Can I just come in here and there's a point that Johnny Rutkin, one of our regular viewers, has made on Facebook. Do you think that Ian Blackford is winding up for a showdown with Theresa May? The last couple of days he has been challenging her, calling her a liar. Is this the start of the push for independence? Johnny, my personal thinking is, I've said it over the last few weeks several times, we are seeing a change of stance from the SNP members of Parliament at Westminster. They are getting more and more into bringing up independence, every possibility. They, just about every speech, they say Scotland will be an independent nation. I'm not quite sure how far that will go. It'll be interesting to see, but I think they are certainly preparing the ground for a big push once we name the date. But again, it's not the SNP politicians at Westminster, it's not Ian Blackford who's going to name the date. That date has to be named by the Scottish Government. And when Nicola Sturgeon, sometime in the next few weeks, comes out and tells us her thoughts, her plans, and how the road goes forward.
Yep. Just a wee couple of shout-outs for our watchers here. We've got Deborah Shiflett-Howard watching from Eastern Shore of Maryland. Welcome aboard, Deborah. Sandra's come back in. She doesn't disagree with the people suffering, but we still don't have enough people wanting that to change in Scotland. I'm going to disagree again, Sandra. We have 450,000 Europeans who, of which 350,000, I think, voted no to remain in the UK because they were promised their status within Europe would be protected. Those given the opportunity, I'm sure 300,000 would come and remain in the EU with caveats from the EU to say that we can, and they're talking that way in Europe. I personally wish to remove ourselves from Europe, but that's a question for after independence.
Amen.
Right now, the Scottish people voted 62-38 to remain in the EU. I have to accept that, that's democracy. But it doesn't stop me fighting within an independent Scotland to remove ourselves from Europe. John Craig's on from West Brom. Ian Leckenby, John Carroll. Great to see so many people joining in. If you have a question, fire away and we'll do our best to get it in.
I've got a good comment here as well from Tam Jarvie. Independence Now, reading between the lines, the SNP are saying no deal Brexit is IndyRef 2. If we get a deal, then is IndyRef 2 off the table? Go for it now, or those sitting on the fence might just go back to the status quo and if May gets her shady deal through.
Yeah.
Has a point.
We're seeing at the moment, we're seeing the most incompetent Westminster government of all time.
And that's saying something.
Colin,
been trying for it.
Colin, it's not just the government. This is the most incompetent opposition. We've got the most incompetent government, we've got the most incompetent opposition, and the real opposition are the I'll give them credit where credit's due. They are the real opposition, but they don't have the numbers to affect anything.
Exactly.
That is the reason.
We are seeing this incompetence in Westminster, and again, we have to go back to basic facts. Now, Scotland has 59 MPs. I'm not quite sure when the boundary changes are due to come in, but at the minute, Scotland has 59 MPs in a Westminster Parliament of 650. So it doesn't matter what we vote for. We could, in Scotland, we could all put in Nigel Farage as a UKIP MP in every constituency, and it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference. And that is the simple fact that we have to be getting out on the streets. Folk in Scotland realise that when we were told to leave the Union in 2014, we've been seeing the way that the SNP MPs are treated at Westminster. Snide remarks, going even further, being told to fuck off and get back to Skye.
Yeah.
Pardon my French, but this is the reality, and this basically means that Scotland will never be in the Union. Scotland will never be an equal partner in a union. Scottish MPs vote against Trident, and Trident is imposed upon Scotland by Westminster. We will never be an equal in this Union of Nations, and that is why we need to get out. That is the message we have to get on the streets, irrespective of Brexit. That is the message we need to get out.
Callum, your input?
I can't disagree with what Colin's just said, but I think if I go back to what I said earlier, I mean, what we're currently seeing now isn't anything of new. I mean, you've touched on the opposition being weak. I mean, you should be taking full advantage of that, right there, that the fact that Labour is died into the pathetic People's Party that they are. The people that you've really got to feel sorry for, and maybe it's just, I don't feel sorry for the SNP. They went down there naively trying to play games when they shouldn't have. The day that they walked out, they should have just came back up the road, quite frankly. To go back in there was laughable. It's the people that have died I feel sorry for on the streets for being homeless. It's the families that are cramped up in houses that are too wee for them that I feel sorry for. It's the people that walk 6 and 7 miles to food banks that I feel sorry for. These are the people that we need to protect and look after in Scotland. These are the people that the SNP need to get their heads on and get that debt called for. Regardless of Labour, regardless of Tories, we're going to be dealing with the same bloody entity as are rotten to the core. We in Scotland need to cut ties and rebuild our country.
Definitely. But I will add to that. You said about people on the streets dying. It's not just that, as awful that is, but it's also the homeless people getting ignored. when you you know, where we've talked about it on the Scottish Resistance show as well. When you talk to people, talk to the homeless people, like even not necessarily give them something, or just talk to people, it puts a smile on their face. You acknowledge the fact that they're there. You acknowledge them, and it blows my mind that they get fined for being homeless. They're basically getting fined for being ignored. It's bloody ridiculous, and that needs to change. We've talked about this. There's a mindset that needs to change, and as long as that doesn't change, and not just with the government, with everybody, people just walk around them and just ignore them. So like, oh, if I don't acknowledge that person, they're not there. But as soon as somebody starts talking to them, giving them some food or something to drink, then they join in for some reason. So it's a mindset that needs to change.
Okay, are we going to move on to another subject?
Yeah. One last question. Sorry, one last question. What do you think that Northern Ireland would feel under the Brexit deal, negotiations, whatever? When Brexit goes through, what do you think will happen with Northern Ireland, borders and everything?
I think Northern Ireland's just better off unifying altogether. Quite frankly, I don't think... Take out the ties to the union that we have in Scotland. There's nothing other than that treated relationship that I would say or imagine. The way that the non-Irish people have also been overlooked in this Brexit process has been quite scandalous, to say the very least. And I think if the Irish government are going to be serious about saying, well, okay, we'll sit down, we'll reunify Ireland, and we'll just work together as a team, then that's probably the best bet to go, because at least that's one government that wants to be cooperative with them, and it's not going to be under the Tory dictatorship that we see.
Definitely.
Let's be under no illusion here. The DUP are holding the rest of Britain to ransom, and the fact is that in Ireland, the majority of youngsters are moving away from the DUP to enable themselves to align with Europe. They want to remain in Europe. Their opportunities. There is now an exodus of youth, as in the exodus of the Irish during the famine. The actions of Westminster and the DUP are pushing Ireland to unification. I think it's not far away from having a referendum on unification of Ireland. That's my view.
Yeah.
But I agree with you there, Pat. I mean, I think the whole point that is scandalous here is that the DUP, they didn't even get 300,000 votes in the last general election. But because of the way things panned out, and with Theresa May's £1 billion bung, they are now the balance of power.
Yeah, they're the balance of power in Britain. They're not the balance of power in Ireland.
No, they're the balance of power in Britain, and unfortunately, we in Scotland are still part of Britain, whether we like it or not, and I know that none of us in the panel tonight like it, but the whole fact is, Northern Ireland voted to remain in the EU.
Yeah.
So,
even with higher numbers than Scotland did.
Even more hypocritical than your Scottish Tories. I mean, can you get more hypocritical as a Scottish Tory? Aye, you can, because you got the DUP who got a couple of thousand votes and now effectively blackmailing Theresa May with the backstop, with the unionism. And in Scotland, what is our choice? We have got no choice but to sit and watch it happen, because we are not an equal partner in this so-called union. I mean, if
We do have a choice,
swayed
though. We do have a
100,000
choice, though.
voters.
Just call the date. That's what
That's
Nicola Sturgeon has the real. Nicola Sturgeon has the real power. All she has to do is to say, do you know what? All the problems to the Northern Irish, you know, they're being overlooked. We're being overlooked. They've got issues. We've got issues. The Tory government are turning us down. You know, it's kind of like that psychopath that's holding up a bank that's prepared to use the hostages as a shield. You know, if I'm not getting out of here with all the goodies, everybody's going down with me. Nicola Sturgeon has that power to stop that from happening. People in Scotland, Northern Ireland, should have to suffer for Tory incompetence. The sooner she calls a date, the sooner all this misery stops.
The sooner she calls a date, the sooner we get a campaign off and running, and we go from 45 to well over 60%.
Definitely.
And how can I say that? Well, we have the Europeans that voted no to remain. They voted to remain in the UK under the guise of the EU status. They know that was a lie. So we will take the majority of that. So that's, say, 300,000. We have the soft voters who were deflected from voting yes to independence, who voted no on the basis of the vow. And we've got the editor of that vow, the man who constructed that vow, talking in Airdrie tonight about why he has moved from no to yes. You know, if we take 20% of the no vote, you're talking 400,000. So we have 1.6 million, we have 300,000 Europeans, we have 400,000 soft, at least 400,000 soft no voters. We have 2.3 million. We have a majority of 65%. It's not rocket science. People have been deceived, and they know they were deceived. Now is the time to start the campaign, allow the movement to have a focus, and we will deliver that.
Definitely.
We will deliver it.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the whole point is, I mean, there's been another point made on the Facebook page. I've just, it's actually just gone away. I think it was Ian, forgive me if I've got the wrong person, saying that the problem is if the SNP MPs were to walk out of Westminster, we would have zero relevance. Now, I actually agree with you. I mean, we have to keep the pressure up within, but we also need, as Pat has been saying, we need to name a date. We don't have to take the Westminster MPs home because they are our elected representatives. They are standing up for Scotland rather than getting pushed at the strangers bar and allegedly feeling folks' bobies. They have to stay at Westminster, but we've got a lot of talented folk in the independence movement. I mean, there's again been points made on Facebook. Lots of talented MPs down at Westminster who aren't being heard. We've got some talented MPs who haven't been heard, who are no longer MPs, that were MPs for a couple of years before the snap election. And we've got other folk in the independence movement that are talented. We've got folk for other parties as well, for the Greens, for Solidarity. And again, we need to get the show on the road. We need to get the show on the road with a date. And when we get the date, I firmly believe, as Pat said, we will get talking to folk. We will get the facts out in front of folk, and we will persuade folk that independence is the only way forward for Scotland.
Yeah.
Raymond, we've got Deborah and Sandra having a wee discussion on the Independence Live page.
Mm-hmm.
Just the world knows about your oil, gold, and so many other natural resources. This is from Deborah. Let's talk freedom. Let's talk how, and let's get it done. Absolutely agree with that. Sandra, the problem is, Deborah, not everyone wants independence in Scotland. That's very true, Sandra, but given what's taken place since, and this is just my personal view, you may agree, you may disagree, that is your prerogative. But given what has taken place since 2014, there are many, many more have moved from no to yes, and there is a minority of yes to no, if there is any actual yes to no's. I can't understand why anybody would wish to call themselves a Scot and not stand up for their nation against an imaginary nation, because Britain is not a nation, it's a union of nations. So that's just my view. You might agree with it, you might disagree with it, but I am 100% sure that there is a massive majority in favour of Scottish independence.
Definitely.
And how do we prove that? We test it. We set the date and we hold the referendum. And it's not about independence, it's about dissolving the union, because we are an independent nation within a treated union.
Yeah. Well, a good point was made on the Scottish Resistance show about a guy from a new group, Yes to Spain and Portugal, Mr. What's his name? Forgot him. Forgot his name. Brian something Borgie. That was his name. He actually said the comment, why do we even need a referendum to dissolve the union when we were not even asked in a referendum if we wanted the union?
Yeah. Can I give you a wee quick one on that?
Yeah, sure.
We need a referendum because we now live in a democracy. We don't live in a lordship of fiefdoms and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
The people have the right to express their will, and for us to receive international recognition, we must hold a referendum and carry the majority.
Yeah.
I just jump in with one quick point that's been made in Facebook. Fiona Graham, for goodness sake, we've been out talking to folk, lots of yes stores and out every weekend. Fiona, I absolutely agree with you there, and believe me, if I was in Scotland, I'd be out every weekend on the yes stall as well. It is great that the yes movement is still together, that the yes movement is still working. Since 2014, we could have just crawled back onto our box and says, all right, well, it wasn't to be. We didn't do that. Now is the time for the next push. And again, the yes stalls, various yes groups across the country that have been working hard over the last 4.5 years. All credit to them. My point is, we need a focus now. We need the date to be named, because then we can really get onto folk. I get the impression that if you're in a yes stall, you'd be talking to folk, yes. Folk might be interested, yes. But there's not quite the urgency behind it. And with Scottish independence, we do have urgency, as we've been hearing before for Callum. Folk are dying in this so-called union because of this so-called union, because of the Tory austerity. And it's time now for us to get in touch with folk, keep on progress doing what we've been doing over the last few years, and really make that final push to get us over the line.
Pat?
Yeah. Was it Fiona that was mentioned there?
Yeah.
Fiona Graham, aye.
Fiona, absolutely in awe of you. And since 2014, it has been the yes stalls, the yes marches and rallies that have kept the momentum going. Without you and without us, being active, because there has been no campaign. No campaign other than the grassroots. It is us who have kept that momentum going. It is now time for leadership. As well as leadership in Westminster, we need leadership here in Scotland. Scotland is the Yes movement, the Yes family are crying out to be saved from this cliff edge. This cliff edge is going to happen. We need to set the date, we need a focus, and we need to go for it. We have the majority. We have the majority, but we have to test it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Pat.
I agree. So let's move on. We can talk about this for ages, of course, but let's move on. Something.
Orange jacket.
What's that?
Orange jacket.
Orange
Oh,
what?
aye.
Orange what?
That
Sorry.
was a lot.
Orange jacket.
It was a
Orange.
red jacket on Thursday.
No idea what you mean.
BBC QT.
Ah, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, we can. Yeah, I didn't have it on the list, but yeah.
It's better than Monkey Jacket. Monkey Jacket never gets a new jacket, but at least Orange Jacket got a red jacket.
I mean, he's on a speed dial for the BBC.
Aye.
Folks, if you don't know what we're talking about BBC Question Time, the most biased political programme in the world.
Oh yeah.
It is a propaganda exercise. It is. We were unfortunate enough. I stopped watching Question Time, and I've got to announce I've stopped watching the BBC, and I've notified them I no longer require the licence. That's done, and I call on everybody else to inform them that we no longer accept their propaganda, and we will not pay for it to be streamed into our homes. It's a joke. People apply to appear on BBC Question Time. Right from the off, it is loaded 4-1 or 3-2 against Scottish independence, and it was no more so blatant than on Thursday past. They held it in a yes town, a town that voted yes, Motherwell. It was 75% anti-Scottish, not anti-SNP, as some would have you say. It was anti-Scottish. 25% pro-independence, not SNP, not in its entirety, but it was pro-Scottish. And that is supposed to be impartial, balanced, and unbiased. Bullshit.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, I watched the Question Time programme. I would take issue with one point, Pat. I think it was more blatant when they came for Dundee a few years back. I think that was even more blatant because you didn't hear a Dundee accent at the time. Folk for Dundee that I know says I didn't recognise one face in that audience. We've seen similar things on social media. I mean, I'm not quite so up with Motherwell. I don't have that many contacts there, but I've been seeing, again, folk saying on social media, well, I've lived in Motherwell for 25 years, and I didn't recognise anybody in the audience. I mean, the point is, BBC Question Time is a joke. I mean, I will still watch it. Not because, I mean, a while back I used to get actually really annoyed. Now I'm just like sitting back thinking, come on, bring it on. Come on with your pish. And it doesn't matter what it's way. I think the important issue is here. Keeping your TV licence in Scotland. As Pat just said, we are getting mainstream establishment rubbish streamed into our homes, and we are paying for the privilege. Now, you can like that. I mean, there is a school of thought that says, well, we have to see what our opponents think, which is fair enough. But I would just like to maybe suggest a couple of other alternative ways you can get your information. Broadcast Scotland do a great job. And Independence Live. Independence Live, streaming us here on the new radio app. A great service. They are broadcasting anything they can, and when there's nothing on for them to broadcast live in their radio app, they have some quite nice music. You don't need your Radio 2 or your Radio Scotland or your Radio whatever. There's some great music playing on this Independence Radio Live. So get it downloaded, folk. Support them. Next time the crowdfunding comes up, they need money. I mean, okay, fine. Everything costs money. So maybe consider next time round, rather than renewing your BBC TV licence, supporting the independent Scottish media. Because there's a lot of dedicated folk out there doing a great job. They need the support. And believe me, you'll get to hear a lot more of the truth than you will on the BBC.
Definitely.
Right, guys, we're getting into the last 10 minutes of the simulcast.
All right.
So
I would like to move on. What do you want to talk about the trial in Catalonia, or do you want to leave that for next week?
Definitely, the show trial. The show trial.
The show trial.
I don't think anybody doesn't know what's taking place. A democratic exercise was exercised, and the outcome of that is brutal suppression. Arrests, violence against their own people, which is one of the rules Europe is supposed to stand up against, and they are asking for imprisonment terms of up to 74 years for rebellion, for holding a democratic process, because the Spanish government instructed Spaniards to boycott that demonstration of democracy. It's a farce, and Europe has its hands round the throat of these prisoners. Europe could step in and is refusing to do so on the basis of an internal argument. No, it's a blatant abuse of power. It's a reinstatement of Francoism, and it's an injustice to democracy. And
Amen.
Shame on Europe for that.
Amen. Amen. I basically would say to Brussels, how dare you not even respond to this sham of a trial, to every bit of finance that's been put on the Catalonian people. The Guardia Civil being brought in by the buses they even beat down people in wheelchairs, and Brussels does nothing. How bloody dare you?
Yeah, well, I agree with you absolutely there, Raymond. I mean, we had hoped to have Johnny on tonight, one of my friends from the Catalans in Munich. Unfortunately, he was busy. We hope to get him on maybe in the next week or two to say a bit more. He's got a lot more knowledge about what's going on in Catalonia than I do, obviously. But I think this is an indictment of the European Union. It's an indictment not just of the European Union, but it's an indictment of every single country that is a part of the European Union.
Indeed.
We've been having it just at Westminster today. We've had protests yesterday and today just opposite 10 Downing Street saying, why is this going on? We've had protests in Scotland. I mean, Scotland obviously has a affinity to Catalonia because we're working for the same thing. Different political backgrounds. But, I mean, the right to self-determination is enshrined in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights.
And it's incorporated in the European Charter of Human Rights.
Right. And to be taken to court, to be in prison for over a year, solitary confinement, just because you are looking for a democratic mandate, is an absolute disgrace. And so shame on the Westminster government for not standing up for it. Shame on every other government in the European Union that hasn't been standing up against this. And shame on the EU. And I say that as a proud European. This is something where the EU has definitely proved itself not to be fit for purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah. Callum, you've been sitting there too quiet, son.
I've just been letting you do your thing, just waiting. I'm not shocked at all with the European Union. It's the same old European stance. I mean, we've seen in Libya, we've seen in Syria, we've seen in other regions over that part of the world. If there's been a demonstration going on, they want to go along with the Americans and carry out democracy. We
Venezuela.
I was ready to touch on to that. You've got the man Juan Guaido, I think his name is, who is an absolute nobody, never run for president, and he has part of a party that's 2 seconds actually.
Can I give you a wee touch on?
2 seconds, Pat. 2 seconds. Leopoldo Lopez, a man who actually helped and assist Americans with a failed coup attempt at Hugo Chavez in 2002. The party is called, whatever they're called. They've been funded $5 million US over the past few years. Now, you can take it out of what you want. The European Union are happy to get involved when money and resources are involved. If it's going to come down for national sovereignty reasons and your freedom, they aren't going to stand up for you. It's the bottom line of it. You just need to look at the facts and present themselves. The Middle East, oil, Venezuela, oil, we've got us in Scotland. The EU aren't really doing too much about it. You've got the Catalonians, they're not doing too much about it. You've got the Palestinians, they don't do too much about it. You've also got them in Tibet, they don't do much about that. It's a pure puppet show, folks. The European Union is nothing, and I feel the utmost sympathy for the souls of Catalonia who get plundered by the fascist Spaniards on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Your man Guido spent his entire life in America and was courted by the CIA to instigate this situation. He's a hand-picked American supporter, and he's fully backed by the Americans. Now, the situation with hunger and starvation in Venezuela has been perpetrated by the West. The West is, whether it's London or America, I believe it's London. London are holding $31 billion worth of gold that belongs to Venezuela. They have frozen the assets of Venezuela, which means that
I can believe that, but what you've got
Maduro cannot be these people.
A lot of people don't realise, see, on the 23rd of January this year, this guy came out and called for the military to step down and he was acting leader. The day before, Trump's Elliot Abrams, and there's a guy called John Bolton. Now, John Bolton's Trump's security advisor went and met with this chap and the other representatives of Venezuela. And these guys have been in and about Venezuela for the Obama and Hillary Clinton regime, trying to take their oil. And what's the EU done about it? Absolutely nothing.
Of course not.
No. Can I just jump in quite quickly here, please, guys? Independence Live is having to wrap up the live stream in just a couple of minutes. So for all of you watching us or listening to us on Indie Live Radio, on Independence Live, thanks for joining us. Thanks to the team at Independence Live for your support. We'll be here next week. We're going to be carrying on for a wee bit. If you want to join us in the People's Doorstep Referendum at Facebook. or will we carry on for a wee bit tonight?
Hey, there's Jomi.
Another thing as well, I just want to quickly say, we're talking about Catalonia. You look at the yellow vests in Paris who are wanting Macron to step down, but where's the EU and America want to bring their democracy to France? Again, because France is part of the group, no democracy taken. It's an absolute shit stir. That's what it is. It's just shit stirring to take everything they can out of the countries that won't coincide with their plans.
Exactly.
I'm just thanking everyone on Indie Live. Okay.
All right. One of the last things I want to do for this week is the international shows. But before we do that, I saw that Jomi is coming on, Colin.
Yeah, Jomi, are you there now? You're
It's Microsoft.
appearing on the screen.